Hello again, beautiful souls, and welcome back to You Are the Magic, the podcast. I'm so honored that you're here with me today. If you've been listening to our previous episodes, thank you, thank you, thank you. And if this is your first episode, welcome. You've arrived in a podcast that is talking about real things, raw things, and things that are deeply important to me. So I'm super excited that you're here. Is going to be a solo episode, and it's a conversation that I want to share with you that is incredibly close to my heart because it's a journey that I've walked myself and also one that I continue to walk again and again and in deeper and deeper layers. And this is about us shifting from proving to trusting, from chasing external validation to coming back home to the wisdom of your own soul, from seeking approval to standing rooted in your enoughness. It's a journey that requires courage, yet it also requires softness and honesty. And you're here listening, and if you're here listening, then I already know that you're ready for it. So let's dive in and begin. The first topic that I want to talk through is this idea of the good girl. So the unspoken rules of the good girl are, well, she's polite, she's responsible, she doesn't rock the boat, she's helpful and agreeable, works very, very hard, and is very, very busy, and she's a nice person. Now, in return, the good girl's always praised. She's told that she's mature for her age, that she's reliable and dependable and impressive. And she's told that she's also really easy to love. But here's what happens over time. The good girl becomes disconnected from herself. She forgets what she actually wants because she's so focused on making other people happy. She forgets what she actually needs because it's never felt safe to name her needs aloud. And she becomes excellent at anticipating what everyone around her requires, but she struggles to hear her own voice. And as we grow older, the good girl simply evolves into something even more exhausting. We become the perfectionist, the overachiever, the people pleaser, and the high-performing woman who's just secretly, deeply, deeply tired. And this is what happened to me. So I'm just going to share a little bit of my story with you. So hopefully it makes you feel a little less alone if any of what I've talked about is resonating with you. So I had a great childhood, had a brother. We were just normal kids. And when I got to that time where we need to decide what are we going to do when we grow up, I wanted to be a ballerina. That didn't quite work out. I didn't go down that pathway. And that's another story for another day. So I went to uni, I finished my degree, I passed all my subjects, and then I went out and got a good job, a good stable job. And in the beginning, that good stable job was great until it hit that point where I was just exhausted and resentful, and I just didn't want to be there anymore. The funny thing was, I was actually successful at the job. I had a great team. I got promoted. I was in a leadership role. And then the rest of my life, great. My relationship with my parents is great. I had a partner traveling all the time. Everything was going really, really well. I had the answers. I had the tools. I had the calendar that showed that I was in demand, that I was doing all the stuff. You know, I had the networking going. I had the social life going. But quietly, in the moments in between, I was exhausted. And that's when that little voice started creeping in and saying to me, Kylie, why are you doing all of this? Why are you exhausting yourself? Who are you without all of this proving? And at first I ignored it because it was inconvenient. because the world was clapping, because the world needed me. It needed me. I was the one to do everything. I would solve all the problems. But eventually, because I didn't listen to that voice, it got louder and louder. And so then I had to face it. I had to reckon with the truth. And what it came down to was I actually didn't trust myself. So doing all of those things for everybody else actually led to me realizing that I did not fully trust myself. Not in the quiet moments, not in any moments, really. I was looking for external validation all the time. However, I had built a successful life. That successful life was around proving myself, and not to me, but to everybody else around me. So it was time to make a change. It was time to come back home to me, to my heart, and actually figure out what I wanted to do. And that was something deeper. And in the end, it was actually leaving my job and starting my business. And so that takes us on another journey. But all the way through, there was this little thing that was happening called imposter syndrome. Now, some of us believe in imposter syndrome and some of us don't. Some of us carry it really quietly and shamefully. And essentially, we think that it's evidence that we're not good enough, or we're not smart enough, or we don't look the right way, or our body shape isn't this or that. But here's something that I really want you to hear clearly. Imposter syndrome doesn't mean that you're a fraud. What it means is that often you've been playing a role for so long and that you can no longer hear your own soul or your own heart. Not because you're an imposter and not because you're incapable. It's just what the world around us has led us to believe, or what we've allowed the world around us to lead us to believe. You feel like an imposter because the version of you've been performing doesn't feel true anymore. And then you wake up, you evolve, and you remember what it feels like to actually live. So then you go on a new journey, and that little voice of the imposter syndrome quietens down. It's no longer there. You're taking off the masks, but it does feel a bit weird, and it does feel a bit uncomfortable. And sometimes we just have to do it and see how it goes. Now, imposter syndrome can also be a signal that we don't love failure. However, failure is actually a really great thing. You've probably heard the saying, fail fast. Why? It's because go in, experiment, see what's happening. If it's not working, move on to the next thing. And so imposter syndrome, working through that, and I guess shaking off all of that and taking off all of your masks is a little bit like that. It's about figuring out who you have been and who you want to become. So when we ignore that signal, when we push it down and we try to power through and we stay in the loop of proving, it doesn't work. And so when we listen and we pause and we get curious, that's when the trust starts rising again. Now, you're probably saying, this is hard though. Like, why? What do we need to do this for? Why do we need to trust ourselves? If trusting yourself feels hard, that doesn't mean you're broken. And that's one thing that we've said all along with this podcast is you're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. However, what it does mean is that you've probably spent decades being conditioned to not trust yourself. And so that's where you look for that external validation. You outsource your decisions, whether that be to your parent or to your partner or to your boss, experts, or even a mentor. You were taught to doubt your feelings, to be rational, to be agreeable, to be nice. And you've taught to override your body's signals, to be productive, to be efficient, and to keep going, even when it doesn't feel like the right thing to do. So sometimes self-trust does feel a bit foreign. However, you're not failing. You're unlearning. You're unlearning all of the habits that you've learned over the years. Now, that's not to blame anyone around you. Most of the time, we probably don't even know that it's happening. But once we actually figure it out, once it comes into our awareness, it's something that we just can't not think about. So this is where we get to have a look at all of our habits and then figure out, okay, what are working for us and what aren't working for us, and what do I need to change? What do I need to unlearn? And what do I need to relearn or learn again? This is a beautiful process. It's quite sacred at the end of the day. Now, with my journey, there's a couple of other things that I've learned, especially while I've been in leadership roles, and then I've moved into business, and I've helped other people with their personal transformations as well. And one of the big lessons has been the world will always try to sell you certainty. It will tell you that if you just do the right things in the right order with the right strategy, then you'll feel confident. Then you'll feel worthy. Then you'll finally be enough, and you'll feel enough, and you are enough, and, all the enoughnesses. But here's the truth. Certainty doesn't come from doing more. It actually comes from getting quieter. It comes from learning how to listen to yourself, listen to your heart, listen to your soul, listen to what you want out of life, and ultimately trust. From recognizing the voice of fear versus a voice of truth, from knowing the difference between a should and a soul-led yes. And the only way to build that muscle is to start listening to yourself again. Even if your voice shakes, even if you don't have those answers yet, even if you've never been taught how, start listening. Start talking to people about it. That was probably one of the biggest things that I did, was actually start talking about how I was feeling. Now, not everyone is going to resonate with this, and people will be like, you're crazy. There are others that will completely resonate with you. Talk to them. What are they doing? How have they gotten over it? Lean into your community. Lean into the people who actually will help you through this journey. So what does this all look like? What is this trusting yourself, listening to yourself, learning about new things? What does it all come back to? Well, what it's not is that it's not about becoming someone new. It's not about fixing yourself. It's not even about always feeling confident in every single moment. It's about remembering who you were before the proving began. It's about reclaiming the parts of you that have been waiting. They've been waiting patiently to be seen, to be heard, to be honored, and to be trusted. That voice inside you that whispers, I don't want to do it that way anymore. I'm tired of pretending. I know what I need. I just need to feel safe enough to name it. That voice that is saying that to you, that's your magic. That's inside of you. That's what you need to start listening to. You might not have all the answers, but listen and see where it takes you. So, my beautiful souls, if you take nothing else from this episode, please let it be that the real magic isn't in being chosen or applauded or validated by anybody else. It's in finally choosing yourself. It's in finally seeing yourself clearly. It's in finally saying with softness and strength, I trust myself. I trust my own voice. Not because it's the loudest, not because it's perfect, but because that voice is yours. And that's what truly matters. Thank you so much for being here and for tuning in and pressing play on this episode. You chose yourself today by listening to this. The You Are the Magic podcast are essentially little love letters to the parts of you that are waking up, the parts of you that are rising, the parts of you that are ready to stop proving and start remembering. If this resonated for you, I'd love for you to share it with a friend or reach out to me on You Are the Magic podcast on Instagram or drop me a note on my website, www.kyliejamescoaching.com.au. I would truly love to hear your thoughts, and I'd truly love to hear what you've got to say on this particular topic. And finally, I just want to leave you with this message. You don't have to hustle for your worth. You don't have to be anyone other than yourself. You are enough. You are whole. And yes, you are the magic. It's all inside of you. Until next time, stay beautiful, stay true, and stay absolutely glorious. Thank you again, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.